Hello everyone, and welcome to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be playing around in Figma, basically doing a bunch of curved stuff. So I guess we'll be looking at how to make, dashboard backgrounds with curved edges that we can use in Tableau. And then I've just kind of grabbed a bunch of stuff that usually has like sharp, straight edges, and I've just all made them curved. So basically, by the time we're done here, you're gonna see how easy it is to make rounded edges in Figma. And why would you want to make rounded edges? Well, I think sometimes it just kind of makes things look nicer for the most part. Like for example, in our dashboards, like if you want to recreate sort of like a modern type of look, you go on Pinterest, for example, you notice a lot of dashboards that are created using anywhere from like slightly rounded corners to like very rounded corners, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today. I have this little background over here, super simple. We're going to build it and we're going to move it to Tableau. So you're also going to learn how to import it to Tableau without worrying too much about like fit. We'll do everything exactly. We're going to build this little pane over here. We're going to build a button. We're going to build a star with curved edges and a triangle with curved edges. All right. So let's go with this one first since it's like the most relevant, the dashboard background. Let's start with bringing in, you know what? Let's start with this. Let's go back home. First, you want to launch a new design file. I'm just going to remember what I did there and we're going to build them here. So as a reminder, all this stuff here, we're just going to build it from scratch. So now that we have a new design file, let's go to this top thing over here, toolbar, and we want to add a rectangle shape. So click rectangle, or as you can see, you can press R. So we're going to drag here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to size this to be 1200 by 700. And what's the relevance of that size? That's going to be the size of our dashboard that we're going to build in Tableau. So you want to make it match exactly. You can either build first in Tableau and then come here and match the size, or you can build here, choose a size, and then match that in Tableau. And we'll see how to do that. So let's just go ahead. Let's make this a little bit lighter since it's a background. So let's go here. I'm just going to choose a random color, gray. And then to make this curved, super simple, you're going to look at this edge and you see there's 4 circles. You can tap, click, and drag. Now, what you can also do is you can go here to this little corner. You can, if you have, say, like some measurements that you're working with, you've been provided dimensions, you can just enter it here. So your radius, we can say 5. And basically that's going to be a bit of a slightly curved edge. Or you can go something like maybe 20 and you see it's a bit more pronounced. You can go 50, even more pronounced. And so the higher and higher you go, it's going to keep getting more pronounced, even so much so that you can literally click and drag it all the way in and have like a full-on semicircle on each side. It's a bit of an exaggeration. We don't want that. So let's go back to 25. I think this is, now let's do 50. So we can get a visible curve since I want you to see this clearly. Now let's build out some tiles, which we would normally use to lay out charts in Tableau. Let's click Alt. When you see the second arrow, drag. So what we've done is we've duplicated this background. So now let's say we can move this in like this, and move this in like this. So I'm just gonna build a big pane. Actually, let's color this white first. So you want to have this selected. You can go to the fill. You can either click and drag, or you can double click here and just tap F 5 times. So that's the standard hex code for white, kind of like how black is 5 zeros. So if you know that, you can type it, else click drag. Now we can move this up here a little bit. You want to align, and then we're gonna grab this down a little bit. And so what I want you to see here, I'm going to control and scroll so you can zoom in a bit. You notice how when we're looking at this thing here, right, there's a bit of a distortion around the edges here. So that's something you want to keep in mind when using rounded tiles on your dashboard. You can click here and you might want to consider pushing this out a little bit. And so you can see it's a lot more balanced now. So let's zoom out a bit. Let's see. Then the other one, I had a shadow added. So let's say you want to add a shadow, just a little bit of a design effect to make things like stand out a bit. You can click here, and then under effect on this right page, you're going to click the plus sign. And the first effect that usually comes up is going to be the drop shadow, which is what we want. So you can click this little thing here. And then I want my shadow to come from the left. So I'm going to say -4. And you can see it's like right there now, but it's super pronounced, right? That's not really visually appealing, nor is this what we really want. So we can add a bit of a blur by using this setting here. Let's do 15 for a bit of a high blur. If you want to go crazy with the blur, you can do like 30, but it just spreads out a lot. For something like this, I would recommend taking down the color. Ignore blur. You want to take down the color a bit. So click here, we can make this a bit more lighter. And so we have a bit of a shadow there, not too pronounced, nothing too distracting. So now let's make 2 more squares or rectangles here. So let's click again, Alt, and we're gonna drag this here, bring this in here, bring this in here. I'm gonna go Alt again, drag here, and you can see the cool thing in Figma, it helps us like align, you know, at the middle there. So we can just grab this here. Maybe we can move this up a little bit, Okay. So again, just like that, you have 3 panes that you can use to bring it to Tableau. So to wrap this up, I'm just gonna go ahead and group these together by selecting everything, Control G. You can technically use frames and things like this, but I'm just gonna keep it grouped to be simple with you here today. We can name this BG1, and then we're done with this one. Now we're gonna go and let's create this. We want to start again with another rectangle. Click, bring it into the view. Let's do a dark background by clicking here, fill, and this. Now we can do the same thing. Let's drag the edges in a little bit. I'm gonna click Alt and copy this again. I'm gonna make this very slim. And now let's make this one lighter to match this here. So we're gonna click here, we're gonna drag, we're gonna click here, we're gonna place it here. I'm gonna click Shift, I'm gonna click so I select these 2 objects. We're gonna go up here under the design pane, and we're gonna use this to align to the right hand side. So now we have this. Now to balance this out a bit, I'm gonna just click this, Alt, and duplicate this. But for this one, I'm gonna Control and scroll. I'm gonna wait till I can see this dot. So I'm gonna click the dot. I'm gonna push it back out to make it into a rectangle. So we're removing the curve. And then while we're doing that, why we're doing that is so that we can grab this guy and layer it over here like this. And that's how you have this little side panel here. So to wrap it up, keep it simple, we can go ahead and Control G, group this together. We can call this pane 2. Now what do we have? Let's do this guy. Technically this is how you can make like a button in Figma. So let's go here, let's grab another rectangle, and we're just gonna draw out a rectangle here. And then for this one, you can do different levels of curvature. So if you drag it in a little bit, you have a bit of a rectangle button with like slightly rounded edges. If you drag it in all the way, then you have a button with like fully rounded edges. And so depending on what you're trying to do, you can basically go ahead and build out whatever buttons you like with that curved edge. Let's say you want to add a shadow again. You click this, you go Effects, you hit the plus sign again, it gives you another shadow. This time, let's say we want the shadow to come from the right hand side. We click this little thing again, and I can say 4, tab. So you see how it's coming from here now. If I put the minus, it comes from the other side. So we're gonna keep it to the right since that's what we said. Now let's make this a bit more prominent. So let's go 6 by 6. You can see a much bigger shadow. We want this to be blurred a bit now. So let's go maybe a 15 blur. And then let's lighten it up a bit so it's not overpowering. This time I'm just gonna leave the color as is. I'm gonna change the opacity to like 10%. Decent. Now we have object number 3. Now let's go ahead and do this guy. To do this, we're just gonna go back to grab an object. Instead of grabbing a rectangle, let's grab a star. So we draw the star. Now I want to hit shift while I'm dragging this out so that it maintains a good ratio. If I remove shift, you can see how it can go like up and down, but again, we don't want that. So by hitting shift, it maintains the perfect ratio and we're just moving back and forth. So now let's keep this guy over here. Let's go change some color. Let's do maybe like a yellowish kind of color. And then to make this curved, you want to hover till you see this. You see how it gives you that little curved mark there? You can click that, pull it in. Same thing applies. Slight pull, like you can modify here. Slight pull, slight curve, big pull, big curve, you know? So you can kind of use this to kind of create any types of shapes. Awesome. Let's go here. Let's do this guy. Same thing would apply. I'm sure you can guess what we need by now. You're gonna go grab another object. What? Polygon. So 3-sided polygon, let's just keep that simple, which is like obviously a triangle. So we're going to do the same thing. If we just draw it out, it just draws whatever. But if we hit shift, then we have an equidistant triangle. So all the sides are equal. And then we can do the same thing. You click till you hover till you see the circles. You can go all the way in to the point where you can literally change that to a circle. You can make it here, like literally however curved you want it to be. And so let's just do a slight curve here, and then you can add whatever color you want to. And that is how you can build out basically curved edges and corners in Figma. Now that we have this and you know how to build this stuff, let's make use of one of the things we built, which is the background. So let's go here. I'm going to right click. No, I don't actually need to right click. We're going to select it. We're going to scroll down to the design pane on the right. Let me move myself out of the view. You want to scroll down to export and hit plus. And you want to actually, I recommend you hit this preview arrow there so that you can actually see what you're downloading before you download it. Make sure that it is what you expect to see. So you see the preview, it looks fantastic like we want. So let's export. I'm going to pop it onto my desktop so it's easy to find. So let's go save. Actually, you know what? Let me cancel first. One thing to keep in mind, if you're going to be building a big dashboard, I would recommend you change this sizing here. So 1x means keep it at the same size. I usually like to go anywhere from like 3 to 4x. That way, as it blows out, it's not losing the crisp sharpness of the image. So we can do 3x. The cool thing about PNG, I believe it stands for Portable Network Graphic. And I wish I had the research behind this. I haven't honestly done research. I just know that PNG is clearer than JPG in my experience. And when you add 2, 3, 4x, you're able to stretch it out further without losing that good focus and the crispness of your image. So now that we have it exported, let's go to Tableau and see what we can actually do with this. We're gonna see how to lay out the tiles in a way that's balanced and how you can still use, let me just stop talking. Let's go to Tableau. So obviously we need some data to build something. I'm just gonna keep it simple. Connect to data. Let's use the sample superstore here. So we click, all right. So let's build out, we need 3 charts because we have 3 tiles that we're gonna do. Get out of the way, Chimdy. So we are gonna say, let's look for a date field. I'm gonna put this order date on the columns. You can build out whatever charts you want to. I'm just gonna build stuff that's like straightforward. Let me grab profit and put it on rows. Okay, I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna do month and year. So January 2019 all the way down to whatever year we got. We can do month year here. So if you just click this, it's gonna show you only the month. That doesn't help us. When you click this one down here, it shows the month and the years associated with those months. So we can right click, edit. I'm just gonna remove this because I hate seeing these labels. It should be obvious that these are the months. And let's call this profit. I'm not gonna bother with like styling because that's not the goal of what we're doing here. So just keep that in mind. You still want to factor in like, you know, how you're gonna present your charts, but that's not today's video. So, you know, ignore the fact that these are bare bones, okay? This is, I would never post this. You see my work, this is not what I do. So keep that in mind, okay? Duplicate. Let's do something for sales. So I'm just gonna keep it simple again, grab sales and replace it. Now let's do, I see returns, let's do returns. So let's duplicate, returns, pop it in there, and now we have a return. Okay, so let's go into a dashboard. Oh, this is what I did before it's here. I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna create a new dashboard, so pretend you didn't see what you just saw. Well, let's go new dashboard, and then as far as sizing goes, we're gonna go here. We want it to be a fixed size, and if you remember correctly, in Figma we have it sized at, you know, 1200 by 700. So we're gonna replicate that sizing here to say 1200 by 700. Okay. Now what we want to do is, let's grab the image first. We're gonna click down here under the objects pane, image, pull it into the view. We're gonna say fit image and center image. This is not a mandatory setting to use, but for what we want to do today, I would recommend you do that because it definitely comes into play for helping us accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here, okay? So we're gonna go choose, and then you wanna grab whatever you saved. In this case, I saved my BG1 on my desktop. So I have BG1. Where are you? BG.png. I hope that's the one. Open, apply. That is not the one. Let me just go back and see what I called this. BG1 is what I called it. So where did I put it? Export. Desktop, BG1, save. Did I not export it? Whatever. All right, choose BG1. There it is. We can select this. We're gonna open it up. We're gonna apply just to make sure it's the right picture. Now we can click OK. Awesome. Now you can see here there's a bit of white space around this. I don't think you want that. I don't want that. I'm gonna hit layout. So we want to, first of all, let's click the image. You can see that there's some outer padding on that. So we're gonna click this arrow. I want this change to impact all the sides around it equally. So I'm gonna leave this selected, and I'm gonna just select this and type 0. You can see it's already moving out now. Next thing we want to do is we're going to look into this pane. We're going to select the tile in which the picture resides, and then we want to remove all the outer padding. So I'm going to click here, change to 0, and okay, now we're looking good. So let me see. Okay, one thing that I'm going to do, let's go back into Figma. So sometimes when you add a shadow, some things happen around the viz here. So even though we've removed all the padding, there's still some space here, okay? So I didn't plan to talk about that, but let me make sure that I'm not tripping here. Okay, so one way that we can deal with that, even though I didn't plan to talk about this, let's talk about it. Let's go back into Figma. I'm going to scroll here. Here's where I want to use a frame, right? And I hope this works. I hope my assumptions are correct here. So I'm going to build out a frame. I'm going to size it the same, 1200 by 700. And then, okay, I want this to have Do I even wanna, do I even wanna, okay. So inside of that frame, I've put the background. What we've done here is basically, when we select the frame, it makes sure that nothing outside of this frame is going to be exported. So even though there may be some kind of space or padding issues, putting this inside a frame encloses everything so that it's going to be cut to fit the frame. So with this, let's try to export the frame and see if that fixes our issue in Tableau. So we can go export, export frame 1. I'm going to save it on my desktop as well. And then let's go back to the Tableau. So now let me go dashboard. I'm going to click on my image. I'm going to click on this arrow and I'm going to say edit the image. And we're going to change this BG1 to frame 1, which we just downloaded. So let's go choose. Let's go frame 1, open, apply, and perfect. So now you can see that that additional padding that brought in, which we weren't really aware of, is now gone, because with that frame, it doesn't matter what you have outside of the frame. It's only going to export what's inside the frame. So I guess what it boils down to is you can create groups to keep things together, but if you want to make sure that there's nothing outside of that being exported, then you might want to wrap it in a frame, and that's fixed our issue here. So going back to what we came here for originally, let's see how we can place these charts to fit these tiles that we've done in Figma. So now let's grab another container. First, I'm going to have just a single container here. So let's do a, I guess I'll do a vertical, and I'm going to make it floating. And so I want to have this exact, is this vertical or horizontal? Let me do a horizontal first. So I'm going to put this horizontal here, click this arrow, make it floating. Now it's floating, but we still want it to be exact, right? So let's use this manual positioning in the layout pane to fix that. So we want the X and the Y to start at 0, 0. Just, thinking about coordinates and how they work, that pushes us to the top left, which is what we want. And then we can now size this container to match the size of a dashboard. So let's go 1200 by 700. So now we can do this. Let's go to the dashboard. Let's grab our profits, put it here. Now we want to have the sales and the returns. This is our return sheet. We want to have them stacked together. So let's go back here. Now we're going to grab a vertical so we can stack them. So we're going to pop this here, and I'm going to just drag this out to a place where we can see what we need to see. And so let's grab sales. Let's grab returns. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and remove the backgrounds of these tiles because we already have the background that we made in Figma. So let's right click, format, click the paint bucket you see right here, boom. On the worksheet, it's colored white, so we can click this, none. Same thing, click this worksheet, none. Same thing, click this, none, boom. Now, what do we want to do? I want to move this in, and how this is done, how I usually do this, I'm going to leverage my inner padding. So inner padding is basically creating spaces around the charts in your workbook. Outer padding creates spacing around the workbook, if that makes sense. So let's say I were to use this, right? This is going to push in the edges of this thing, create space around the edges of the worksheet. I don't want that. So matter of fact, let's make that 0. But I do want space around the chart. So I'm going to go scroll down. Inner padding, I want what I'm doing to impact all the sides equally. So let's start out with like 50 and see what that gets us. You can see it's nice and pushed in. I think we can work with this. So I'll leave it as is. We can go here. Let's try 50 again. First, let's remove the outer padding. Again, not that that's just too big of a deal, but I'd rather do it like this. As a matter of fact, Let me select this container and shift it match here. Okay. Now we can click this one. Let's scroll down to the inner padding and let's try 40 since it's a bit of a smaller chart. I think this works, but I want to push this in a bit more. So I want to push in the left and the right hand side because I can see like the top, I like the spacing, but here I feel like it's still too close. So now that we don't want the changes to impact everything evenly, we can uncheck this. Now let's try to do 60 over here, and let's try to do 50 over here. Actually, let's do 60. Okay, that's decent. Let's pop this over here. Now, technically, you can like align this to be like even, but sometimes even when you think it should be even, it doesn't look even. So you're free to go ahead and manipulate this view however you want to. So let's click here. I'm going to remove the inner padding as usual by selecting, type in 0. I'm going to go ahead and add some inner padding. Let me try to copy what I've done here. So I have 60, 40, 60, 40. Now let's go left 60, right 60, top 40, bottom 40. And now we have 3 charts that we've built into our view: profit, sales, returns. If we go presentation mode, we can see that just like that, we now have our background that fits perfectly, our charts that fit within the background, and everything looks gravy. Of course, you know, when you're actually building in real life, you want to think about placement of filters. If you need any panes and things like this to add in titles and like annotations and legends and whatnot, you want to keep that into consideration. But the purpose of this video was to create rounded charts and rounded corners in Figma and bring them into Tableau and seamlessly apply them in our business. So that's been done here. I hope this was easy and straightforward. I'm going to cut it now because I don't want this to be crazy long. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy busy.